Greetings. My name is Musa Kumala. I'm the Group Head for Shared Services in the city of Tshwane municipality. Part of the responsibility that includes the rollout of information and communication technologies, both for the city but also for our communities at large. It is my great pleasure to speak to you about some of the challenges that we're facing in the city in the area of ICT, but as well as some of the programs that we're doing to address those challenges and maybe give my perspective of the future opportunities that exist. The city, like any other major city in our country, is faced with a huge problem of digital divide, wherein a large number of our communities are still not able to access some of our services through online channels, either through because of issues of access, issues of affordability, and skills amongst others, while you have on the other end of the spectrum a high need and thirst for the rollout of going online and all the other services. So it's very important as we roll out our programs to keep on ensuring that we do not leave anyone behind. And the city has, over the past 10 years or so, been trying to accelerate its programs that relate to ICT in our quest of becoming a smart city. Some of these projects include our well-known Wi-Fi program, wherein we're trying to, at the very least, to subsidize the cost of access to internet, availing connectivity at convenience of our customers, but also just ensuring that we're able to reach some of the areas that will not necessarily always be reached by your big telecoms companies. So our program has seen about at least about 100 additional hotspots every year, in addition to the 1,000 that we've already done by the year 2016. We've continued to accelerate that particular program, availing Wi-Fi hotspot in areas such as parks, in areas such as schools. So part of this has always been to make our contribution to our community to be able to access, as it has been shown by COVID, where during lockdowns some of the schools have not been able to bring kids back to school. Some of the schools can only afford to rotate schools every second day. So there is an increasing need for our schools not to be left behind in access. And what we have seen is that with accelerating Wi-Fi connectivity at school, part of what we've been able to do is to ensure that there is a continuous access by students. And obviously it's not at the rate that we want, because, as I said earlier, our country is one that is riddled by highest levels of inequality. So that is one of the programs that the city will still be continuing to focus on over the next 10 years or so, to bring connectivity closer, especially to schools, but also in trying to bring it closer to areas of congregation, such as your halls and so on. So that is one part that the city has been implementing to bridge the digital divide. One of our programs that is currently unfolding through litigation, which we're hoping that will be resolved soon, is our Broadband Project. Part of what this project aims to do is to see how we can furthermore bring connectivity through fiber, through carrier grade equal sort of quality of connection to homes, and this will also look at both your poor but just across the city as well, because we believe, as the studies show, that the more people are connected, not just to services of the city, but being able to apply for jobs, being able to have the city that continues to interact with its consumers beyond the normal 9 to 5 hours, and as well as avoiding instances where people have to travel hours spend money on transport just to access services that they could be accessing online. We'll be able to cut out a number of costs, not just in creation of jobs, but also in cutting of costs that people spend in attempt to access services. So the Broadband Project will enable the city in many respects to ensure that there is a fiber closer to home that is at a subsidized cost by government. These are some of just the projects that we're doing to ensure that we increase access, we increase connectivity, that no one is left behind. Part as well of what we've been trying to do is to avail as much of our services through online platform. As I made the point earlier, that some of the studies are showing that people have to spend a lot of money to access government services. Take a taxi, sometimes 1 or 2 taxis, just to access a customer care center to have a query on an account, or to even do simple things as printing proof of home address. So being able to avail these services online allows the people to transact with government from the comfort of their home or from their smartphone devices. Some of these services include being able to access your account, being able to pay for your account, being able to apply for some of the services. So this is part of ensuring that no one is having to waste or spend money on transport, or even sometimes take the whole day out of their work or out of looking for work just to go and access services that otherwise should be available online. Obviously, we're mindful that that needs to be supported by a strong connection, so that again you avoid the situation where others can access things online and others cannot. So if you look at, for example, our popular Tshwane platform, we've been able to avail some of these services, and customers now are able, for example, to do things such as uploading their meter, which ensures that there is accurate readings, and you don't have to have a situation where you have to again travel to access, as I said, services that are now available on Tshwane. And we're looking at expanding this over the next few years to include a number of services such as booking of halls for communities, and being able to book a number of services that people still have to travel to the city to access. So this is part of the programs that exist in terms of availing online services as well. In terms of the future opportunities of where we are seeing the impact that government can play in bridging digital divide, is that the city is currently reconceptualizing its interactive digital center. What this center will be able to do will be to start availing some of the IT services such as augmented reality, wherein we'll be able to have a center that will be open for our students to create content that can be able to be availed for purposes, for example, of tourism, for education, where without having to invest huge amounts in capital, we can create content that school learners, for example, can interact with in a form of augmented reality. So this is where we see our city in terms of smart city growing towards, in terms of more building a more inclusive city, wherein whether it is school kids or it is communities that people are looking for jobs, will be able to come and learn a skill and a trade. So a skill that otherwise you'll need to pay a lot of money to access through a formalized educational institution. We believe that we can be able to make use of augmented reality and virtual reality to create a training at a much lesser cost, whether it is to replicate call center environment, on a virtual reality platform to train people in that particular trade, or to train artisans using augmented and virtual reality. So we're looking forward to recapacitating that particular center, and we think that this is what is going to be important going forward. It's how we use technology to lower cost, ensuring access even across the spectrum. So I'm hoping that we will be able to learn a lot from the discussions that you will have in your conference. We're looking to explore some of the solutions that are going out there for the benefit of the city. So I want to thank you once more for the opportunity that you have afforded me, and all the best wishes for your conference. Thank you.
Welcome to all our international guests joining us for this talk under the title Bridging the Technological Divide in Big South African Cities is a Critical Component of Our Social Compact. My name is Lardo. I'm the Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Tshwane Economic Development Agency. The agency is a municipal entity of the city of Tshwane, the capital city of South Africa, and we are charged with developing the economy of the city and making sure that no one is left behind. Now, our talk here today focuses on making sure that even though we get excited about the fourth industrial revolution and about artificial intelligence and robotic process automation, we still remember to bring all our citizens into the mainstream benefits of what this fourth industrial revolution offers us and promises us. Now, to give our viewers a bit of context on the position of Tshwane and TEDA within the fourth IR industrial landscape, quite recently, the Gauteng province unveiled its 4IR growth and digitalization strategy. This is a brand new strategy aimed at making sure that a fully digitalized and modernized Gauteng public service can really bring across all the benefits to its citizens from being connected and having access to higher quality and sustainable government services. Now, this aligns very well with current research that was produced by AI Media, the hosts of the AI Expo Africa, that showed of the 1,400 companies within the AI and 4IR space, 377 of those companies are headquartered in the Johannesburg and Pretoria region, which means quite simply that 30% of all AI and 4IR companies within the African continent is headquartered within the Gauteng city region. And that, of course, makes us the de facto tech hub of the continent. Now, what is the Gauteng city region? Gauteng is South Africa's richest province, and it is the financial center on the continent. It mainly consists of three major metros, which is the city of Johannesburg, the financial and pharmaceutical hub of the province. It consists of the city of Ekurhuleni, which is the manufacturing and logistics hub of the province, and of course it consists of the city of Tshwane, which is the capital of South Africa and is called the innovation and automotive hub of the province. Now, together, Gauteng province contributes more than a third of South Africa's economic activity, and it does so from only 2% of the total land area from South Africa. So we are very much within that space where we show that you don't need land and you don't need vast quantities of land to really leverage the resources contained within your geographical area to contribute significantly to the country. To put it into context, it means Gauteng contributes 10% of the economic activity across the entire African continent. And of course, this makes us ideally situated and ideally suited for being the new Silicon Valley of Africa, in the words of our Gauteng Premier, David Makura. The strategy, the 4IR growth and digitalization strategy of the province, resulted in a 15-member panel, 4IR panel, established by the Premier, David Makura. And this was essentially to ensure that as Gauteng and as the country moves into the fourth industrial revolution space, we can offer a fully digitalized public service to our citizens and ensure that they can actually leverage the most benefit from our modernization and digitalization efforts. It also dovetails and supports the consolidated strategy, Growing Gauteng Together 2030 or GGT 2030, in the sense of allowing us to really leverage the fourth industrial revolution and the technology and the technological advances as a critical economic lever to unlock economic potential and address our triple challenges in South Africa, being poverty, unemployment and inequality. In Tshwane, as our Executive Mayor alluded to in his welcome address, we also offer the continent's biggest free public Wi-Fi service, and we are host to the World Economic Forum's Fourth Industrial Revolution Center that is hosted at one of our innovation and research and development partners, the CSIR. Now, why are we so ideally situated in Gauteng, really serious about bridging the technological divide? And to take our viewers through our focus on a social compact and making sure that no one's left behind, we have to go back and look at the history of the development of the industrial revolution cycles. With the onset of the second industrial revolution around the 1870s, about 90 years later, we saw how the advent of electrical energy made people more productive and allowed and facilitated mass production within factories. The third industrial revolution brought us the internet, and that allowed us to become even more efficient and more productive within our working environment, and it also ushered in the era of automation of processes. Now with the fourth industrial revolution, where we are talking about the fusion of technologies, we are not only talking about the automation of work processes, but also the automation of knowledge and knowledge sharing. So there's a vast literature on the benefits and the learning cycles embedded within the industrial revolutions. So quite simply, societies learned during the first industrial revolution, and they garnered specific skills that stood them well going into the second industrial revolution. During the second industrial revolution, those societies that actually participated in that also learned specific skills and made mistakes and learned lessons that allowed them to become more flexible and more adaptive to the technological advances brought on by the third industrial revolution. Now, if you specifically look at South Africa and you look at our industrial revolution history, you will notice a couple of peculiar things that's specific and idiosyncratic to South Africa, and specifically to the capital city Tshwane and the Gauteng city region in general. The first one is on the second industrial revolution, which brought us the electrical energy. Currently, the World Bank publishes figures that shows that South Africa's access to electricity is around the 87-88% mark. Now, it's slightly higher in urban areas than in rural areas, but it means we have more than 10% of all people or households in South Africa that still don't have access to electricity. Now, when you don't have access to electricity, of course, you can't claim to have completely gone through the second industrial revolution. And the lessons that you need to learn and the skills that you acquire and the knowledge that you gain in going through these cycles allows you to be ready and to be able to adopt new technologies that future cycles or future industrial revolutions bring. Now, it can be argued that since more than 10% of South Africa has not been privy to or enjoyed the benefits contained within the second industrial revolution, we have not actually completed the second industrial revolution and the learning embedded therein as a country. Currently in the city of Tshwane, although we are close to 90% access to electricity, it still means that almost 10% of our citizens do not have access to electricity. Now, to put that into context, that's close to 400,000 people. And these 400,000 people are our citizens. And since they've been deprived of the benefits and the knowledge embedded within that specific element of the Industrial Revolution, These 400,000 citizens are ill-equipped to be able to adopt new technologies and to be able to actually unlock the potential embedded within the new technologies in the third industrial revolution, which is the internet. Now, talking about the internet, the current access to internet or internet penetration rates within the city of Tshwane is less than 70%. The smartphone penetration rate in the city of Tshwane is less than 62%, which means we almost have a third of our population still not enjoying the total benefits brought about by the third industrial revolution. And it's against this background and within this context that we have to stop as specifically local government, but also as human beings, to say, how can we make sure that going into the fourth industrial revolution and thinking about artificial intelligence and robotic process automation does not increase inequality that's currently very prevalent within South Africa, and does not actually leave people behind. People who have been previously marginalized from enjoying these benefits and have been previously marginalized from enjoying mainstream economic participation. As the strategic position of the city of Tshwane and the Gauteng city region in general is to become the technological hub of the African continent, we are also mindful of our position and our role within the sub-Saharan African context, where more than 670 million people still do not have access to electricity. And electricity, within the context of the fourth industrial revolution, is the enabler that allows people to become connected. And it is this ability to connect that drives our focus in understanding how do we breach the technological divide and how do we ensure that our communities at large enjoy the benefits and are not left behind. Now, I want to give you a few practical examples of how potentially our society and our citizens within Tshwane and the Gauteng city region could very easily be left behind by all the very quick and very fast-paced developments happening within the AI and fourth industrial revolution space. Recently, Dr. Ryan Noach, the CEO of Discovery, which is one of the largest financial services firms in South Africa, wrote about the digital medical platforms and how these platforms and devices are revolutionizing healthcare. And I want to quote his own words: "Any healthcare consumer anywhere in the world with a broadband connection can consult directly with highly qualified practitioners." Now, what does this mean for our communities who don't have access to broadband, who do not have a broadband connection? Simply, it means they do not have access to high-quality healthcare practitioners, which is further increasing the inequality and the divide that we currently find in the South African society. I recently read an interesting piece by Professor Tshwane Marwala, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg and the Chairperson of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Panel for South Africa. And Professor Marwala was calling for the use of technology and for AI in improving judicial outcomes. And he based his writing on several studies conducted in the US and in the UK, where they analyzed the outcomes of trials and specifically judgments delivered by judges. And they showed how the use of AI could have led to more rational decisions and more rational and hence equitable outcomes. But what does this mean for a citizen in the city of Tshwane who still do not have access to court services in their own language? Does the same rational decision making, which uses inputs and documents and source documents to deliver these more rational outcomes, does it really give them a fair and equitable access to a judicial system that is certainly improved with the technology use and with the use and adoption of AI? But what does it mean for the citizen sitting in Mamelodi or Atteridgeville or Alexandra or Soweto? Does that really mean they have more equitable access to judicial services? My very good friend Daniel Seymour, the data chief of Investec, recently recounted a trip they undertook to the United States to look at how data could improve their banking services. And the takeaway from our engagement was that he's of the firm opinion that those who benefited from the trip and who saw how data could improve the banking services of investing had a responsibility to share these lessons and to make this experience more broadly available to other participants who did not join the trip to the United States. And even in as much as what he was talking about was efficiency and sharing those efficiencies with others within your sector or within your environment or community, I immediately thought about those millions of South Africans that are still excluded from the banking sector. What does this efficiency gain and the use of technology and algorithms and AI within the banking sector mean to those particularly aged members of our community who still do not own bank accounts, who still are not adapted to using a chip and PIN system, and who can still not access an ATM in their own language, and hence be able to enjoy all the benefits that AI and technology could potentially unlock within that banking sector. So our talk here today is a clear call to the broader and global AI and 4IR community to, when you think of your innovations and when you implement your inventions, to also consider the public good and to ensure that your solutions and your programs and your technology improves the lives of people that are typically excluded. When we, as TEDA and as the city of Tshwane, say that we want to make sure that no one is left behind, what we mean is we need to make sure that everyone is connected. Even if it means we have to go back all along the history of the Industrial Revolution cycles and address issues like access to electricity, access to the internet, and access to the fourth industrial revolution. Connecting all our people within South Africa and specifically in the city of Tshwane and in the Gauteng city region with comprehension and ability to all that the fourth industrial revolution promises is how we bridge the technological divide. For us at TEDA and in the city of Tshwane, what it means to take all our people along on the journey means that even if we have to go back and first solve the issues of access to electricity and access to the internet and subsequently access to the fourth industrial revolution, this is our social compact with our citizens and with our communities at large. Connecting all our people with comprehension and the ability to derive all the benefits contained within the fourth industrial revolution and the benefits from being connected is how we at TEDA and in the city of Tshwane believe we bridge the technological divide. Thank you very much for joining us for this talk. We are looking forward to your questions that you can make now on the comment panel, and we'll be addressing those, and we look forward to the discussions hereafter. Thank you very much.